A bombshell just broke from behind the scenes in Buffalo. The Bills have added a reinforcement that could impact the defensive rotation in the coming games. But don't worry, this is just the beginning. There's a key player recovering, a familiar face possibly returning, and hot rumors of roster moves. If you're a true fan, subscribe to the channel and follow along, because what's happening now could change everything about the Bills season. The Buffalo Bills started the week with a strategic trade that went almost unnoticed by some, but could have a significant impact on the depth of the defensive line. The team officially announced the re-signing of defensive end Cameron Klein, a player already familiar with the system and who could be a crucial piece of the rotation during the season. To make room on the roster, the Bills released fellow defensive tackle Hayden Harris. The decision signals a clear preference for Klein, who, despite a relatively low-key career in the league, brings familiarity with the Buffalo environment. Klein, 27, entered the NFL undrafted in 2019 from South Dakota. He began his journey with the Colts, bouncing between the main roster and practice squads until 2023. After being released, he joined the Bills, spent 2 years on the practice squad, and had a brief stint with the Jets in 2024. However, he returned and played in an official game for the Bills that same year. While his numbers aren't impressive yet, Klein is familiar with Sean McDermott's defensive scheme. This familiarity can make a difference, especially considering the injuries and turnovers that often occur during a grueling NFL season. Now, the question remains, was this re-signing simply a depth addition, or a sign that the coaching staff is paving the way for something bigger in the pass rush? But that wasn't the only impactful move, because behind these decisions, there's a much bigger mission at stake, breaking one of the biggest records in the franchise's history. If 2024 already seemed like the year of redemption for the Bills, 2025 promises even more. That's because Buffalo is just one season away from achieving the greatest consecutive feat in franchise history: 7 consecutive postseason appearances. And more than that, the mission is to break the tie with the legendary team led by Marv Levy between 1988 and 1993. The current streak already totals 6 playoff appearances. Only the Kansas City Chiefs currently have a longer streak, with 10 consecutive appearances. But there's one detail that hurts. Unlike that golden generation of the 1990s, which reached 4 Super Bowls, the current Bills have yet to step foot on American football's biggest stage. In 2024, they played 20 games, won 15 games, had just 8 turnovers, and earned Josh Allen the MVP title. And still, no Super Bowl. They've made 2 AFC Championship games since 2020, both losses. And for the last 4 years, elimination has come at the hands of the Chiefs. It's painful, it's torturous, but it's also motivating. The 2025 season officially begins on August 9th with the preseason game against the Giants. And more than just practice and statistics, the legacy of a generation is at stake. Because with another trip to the postseason, this team not only makes franchise history, it also reignites the flame of redemption. But a long, successful campaign requires health, depth, and resilience. And speaking of health, a key player has just received a diagnosis crucial to the defense's immediate future. It was one of those moments when time seemed to stand still. A mournful silence fell over the Bills' practice field when rookie Max Hairston fell to the first pitch, clutching his knee. Eyes met between players, coaches, and fans. The same thought hung in the air. Will we lose our promising cornerback before his debut? It wasn't just a concern for the present, but for the entire defense that had been carefully and strategically built for 2025. The tension was real, almost palpable, and rightly so. Hairston arrived in Buffalo surrounded by expectations. As a first-round pick, he quickly demonstrated that the Bills had invested heavily in their selection. His speed, his reading of the game, his aggressiveness at the ball, everything indicated Max would make an immediate impact. His performance in the first few practices only reinforced this. But in an instant, everything seemed threatened. A twist, a scream, and there he was, being helped off the field. It was as if the entire defensive plan had been put on hold. But then the collapse loomed. Medical tests brought much better news than feared. The anterior cruciate ligament, ACL, was intact. What appeared to be a devastating injury was actually a moderate sprain of the lateral collateral ligament, LCL. Hairston was initially expected to be out for 3 weeks, enough to recover and hopefully be on the field in week 1. A turn of events that brought pause to the medical staff and a glimmer of hope to the fans. After all, losing such a talent for months could jeopardize the Bills' entire defensive campaign. But the NFL is ruthless with time and unforgiving of roster holes. Even with the positive prognosis, Hairston's absence from upcoming practices and preseason games leaves a significant hole in the defensive rotation. And when that hole appears, the name of an old acquaintance quickly resurfaces: Rasul Douglas. Douglas isn't just another cornerback available on the market. He has history with Buffalo. He arrived at the franchise midway through the 2023 season in a trade that, at the time, many considered bold. But as soon as he stepped onto the field, he made an immediate impact. With Tre'Davious White out and Christian Benford still on the rise, it was Douglas who assumed the responsibility of secondary leadership. He brought experience, communication, and a significant physical presence to the outside of the defense. His performance in 2023 was solid, making him a fan favorite and respected in the locker room. In 2024, things changed somewhat. Douglas maintained his starting spot, but didn't have the same shine. His coverage grade dropped to 58.9, according to Pro Football Focus, a figure that isn't alarming, but also doesn't guarantee a starting spot. At the end of the season, with the defense's overhaul underway, his contract was not renewed. Since then, Douglas has remained a free agent, exploring options and listening to offers. And this is where the Bills' dilemma arises. Bring back a veteran with a recent history with the franchise or fully trust in the youth of Hairston and Benford, even after the scare? On the one hand, Rasul Douglas offers exactly what Buffalo needs right now: stability, game reading, and familiarity with McDermott's system. On the other hand, there's a competitive factor. Teams like the Los Angeles Rams and Cincinnati Bengals are looking to strengthen their secondary and could offer Douglas something Buffalo might not be able to: a guaranteed starting spot. If the Bills want him back, they'll need to act quickly and show that he's still a valuable piece on the board, even if this time in a more situational role. And there's also the emotional factor. Douglas has adapted well to the environment in Buffalo and has expressed a connection with his teammates and the city. It wouldn't be surprising to see him opt for a return, especially if the focus is on winning a title rather than personal statistics. Meanwhile, young Hairston continues his rehabilitation, with the medical department watching closely and the fans watching closely for every update. The hope is to see him on the field for the season opener. But until then, the pieces need to fall into place, and the next few days will be decisive, because in Buffalo, every detail matters, every player counts, every decision matters, and if the defense wants to be dominant in 2025, it will have to be deep, versatile, and resilient. With Hairston, with Douglas, or with both. The question now is no longer who's healthy, but who's ready to win, because the clock is ticking, and the Super Bowl dream waits for no one. With so many changes underway, a new defensive signing, the chance to break a historic playoff record, and the possible return of a veteran after a worrying injury, are the Bills finally assembling the right roster to win the long-awaited Super Bowl? Leave your opinion here. Don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel. But later I will come back to update you with the latest news from Buffalo Bills.